is that a new context, or do I have to go to a different place in the room? I'm uncomfortable with the word context. I don't think it picks out anything sort of in a determinate fashion.
So it has to do more with relevance, then?
Yes, very much.
Okay. And in your paper on relevance realization, can you give the name of the journal and the volume and issue number?
Yeah, it's in the Journal of Logic and Computation. It's actually, you have to go through what's called advanced access, which means it's not out in print yet. But if you go to the Journal of Logic and Computation, their website, go to the advanced access, click on that, and then you'll find the paper by John Vervaeke, Tim Lillicrap, and Blake Richards.
Okay. How do you spell your last name? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, it's Flemish. I don't know what it means. I sometimes joke that I think it means there's plague in this village.
Sorry, I can't see that.
V-E-R-V-A-E-K-E. John Vervaeke.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. When I saw the title of your talk, one thing that popped into my head was the spiritual experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that can sometimes happen, seems to happen to religious people a lot more than to non-religious people like myself, but it does happen. Mm-hmm. You can think about people who use drugs, or starve themselves, or go out on a spirit quest, or something like that. Does that, very simply, does that have anything to do, or what exactly does that have to do with what you're talking about today?
Very much. I mean, I think I don't have time to go into it, but I think the original form of religio, shamanism, Michael Winkelmann and others have argued very convincingly that what shamans are doing is all of this. Shamanism is, in a sense, the first primary psychotechnology for manipulating this, and it's doing all of these things very directly. Why do you want to alter consciousness? Because it looks like one of the fundamental roles of consciousness is to act as sort of a central warehouse for relevance realization. Parts of your brain are realizing relevance, and what consciousness does is act sort of as a central workspace where it can pass all that information around. And so when you alter consciousness, you're fundamentally altering this in some very important ways. And usually you're deeply altering, right, your experience of the intelligibility of things. So shamans typically are more insightful, more foresightful, and more mindsightful than their fellow tribe members or whatever. I don't know what the correct noun is. Okay?
Non-shamans.
Pardon me?
Non-shamans.
Well, we're non-shamans, but whatever. And one of the things I would also argue is that in meditation, you're doing again. There's if I ever come back, I can tell you about some of the work I do on meditation and mindfulness. And meditation picks up on a lot of these abilities, right? And it looks like shamanism was primarily responsible for the cognitive explosion, which is the Upper Paleolithic cognitive explosion, where you get between 60 and 30,000 BC, you have a huge explosion in human capacity for symbolic art, abstract thought, sophisticated technology that is not accompanied by any anatomical change. Okay, so yes, in a long way. That's what I said to you. In the end, even the mystical tradition. Look, the Neoplatonic tradition understood sort of the deepest, mystical experiences, not as experiences of reasoning, but as experiences of deepening of intelligibility. Yes, Jeremy. Jeremy is one of my students from U of T.
Hi. I was wondering if you could elaborate more on the connection between logic, language, and neurological development, particularly in childhood, and how
Sure, Jeremy.
how religio is expressed and how it advances and tracks the cognitive development of, well, a child in this case, but humans in general. And are there sort of critical phases like we see with linguistic development?
Yeah, I think your question is kind of like huge. So let me all I can do is gestures to some sign points. One of the crucial things we can look for is there seems to be developmental periods around when appearance-reality distinction kicks in. There's developmental periods about when kids can start to use metaphor or related insight phenomena, right? So you may notice that kids have to practice getting jokes. And for the longest time, they don't know what they're supposed to do to tell a joke or to get a joke. At first, they think it's just say something loud or bizarre, right? And then they slowly have to, because a joke is an insight problem. The whole point of a joke is I lead you one way, and then I twist it at the end. right? So you can see the development of humor, the appearance-reality distinction, and you can also see them starting to practice this. Daniel Hutto does a lot of work on this, called the narrative practice hypothesis, right? That kids are spending a lot of time practicing narrative. We pump narrative at them all day long, and they want to do narrative all day long. So, you know, have a 5-year-old, and you watch the same damn movie 37 times because you're watching it and you know how to do narrative. My son's watching it because he's trying to figure out how narrative works. And what we're seeing, for example, is narrative is really powerful. It's very powerful. Narrative synchronizes the hemispheres, like music. Because to get narrative, I have to get sort of the logical, sequential stuff from the left, but I have to get all this big picture, overarching theme that the right hemisphere likes so much, right? Narrative. Your facility for a narrative is the most robust predictor of parent-child attachment, of how well parents and children attach to each other emotionally. The parent's facility with narrative is the most robust predictor of that. So you can, Jeremiah, you can see stages of this, right? In terms of signposts for appearance, reality, humor, metaphor, the narrative. Is that giving you, where are you? Things like that. Okay?
Well, my question is, your model looks very much like classical reward model for insight, error, and the flow is the reward.
Kind of. I mean, I think that I also teach a course on learning and plasticity. So I do a lot of work on conditioning and reinforcement learning. And what we're coming to realize is the ability to sort of pick up on salience kind of precedes your ability to condition. So if an organism can't do some basic salience, and salience is just relevance that captures attention, then you're not going to even get Pavlovian conditioning running off that.
Assuming it's a sort of a self-rewarding kind of
Sure.
Model. So what are the controlling cognitive mechanisms to get out of this feed-forward positive?
Oh, there's lots of things. I mean, for example, you mentioned flow. All you have to do is mess up the very delicate balance between skill and demand, and you'll fall out of flow like that. Right? Because all of these are self-organizing systems. And if you perturb them, so they'll show an enormous kind of stability through a lot of parameter change, but certain parameters change, like all self-organizing system can just shut it off like that. Okay, so for example, with flow, all I have to do is if I get your skill to outweigh the demands, you go into boredom, the dopamine drops, the positive affect drops. As positive affect drops, your cognitive flexibility drops, your ability to do insight drops, and then the whole system goes blah, blah, blah. Okay? Or, if I push the demand beyond your skill, anxiety, cortisol shoots in, your cognition narrows in another way, right? Your ability to solve insight problems goes down, you become much more concrete, blah, 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 blah. That kind of story.
You talk about practicing jokes or whatever. I haven't practiced this question, so it's going to be a little strange.
Okay.
Ken Dell talks about Francis Crick when he was dying. He was working on the part of the brain that's the consciousness claustrum.
According to Crick.
Yeah, well, okay. You say, if you say he's wrong, that's, I guess. But like, what I'm reading about spirit, mind, and brain, it's about religion. And the guy's...
Is that Beauregard's book?
Pardon?
Is that Beauregard's book?
Ostrom.
Oh, okay, it's another book.
Yeah. What he's talking about is the fact that through the whole process of development, you know, from childhood to I guess adulthood, or he says that the brain is changing based on a Freudian concept that the child is always trying to separate and
from their parents or something like that?
Yeah, and that you know, at the same time they're also trying to separate from the church. I mean, religion. It doesn't matter what nationality or whatever. They're all trying. They all don't believe that.